My name is Mike Evans. I have the privilege of being the lead pastor here at Faith Community Church of New Richmond. It was about 14 years ago that I came back from a mission trip to Eastern Europe. I had been involved in training church planters in Moldova and started out with a question that I thought was rather simple. And one man after the others talked about how he had gone back to a village like he grew up in, started sharing the gospel, and God raised up a church. And after the 23rd man said basically the same thing, I started to think maybe God wanted me to go back to a village like I grew up in and see if God would raise up a church. And so I came back to the States. We were doing short visits at that point for training, and I talked to my wife about church planting, and we'd talked about it over the years, and I had led a couple of other churches, and Jill affirmed that she thought the time was right, and so we started making some contacts about church planting and what God might do. And I thought if God had any sense at all, He'd send us south, and He kept pointing us north. And so we moved north from the Chicago area. I got in touch with Tom Niebel with the Great Lakes Baptist Conference and started to describe part of our background and the people that we thought God might use us to reach. And we intentionally targeted a community of less than 10,000 people because Jill and I both grew up in smaller towns, and we were well aware of the need for high-impact churches in smaller communities. And so working with Tom, we put together a list of 10 communities that he thought would fit the profile that we had put together, that included the population base. We wanted to be close enough to a metropolitan area that there was a population base that would lead us toward multiplication, so we wanted to be part of a church planting movement. We were really looking for a strong mother church that would serve alongside us and encourage us and support us, and we really wanted strong theological alignment and philosophical alignment. So we took off on a journey. Actually it was a 2-week trip. Jill and I left Chicago and visited every one of those communities. Along that way, we stopped at the Church Planters Retreat for the GLBC in Door County, and we met Greg and Heidi Heinz. And there was a pretty dramatic connection early on. I just really sensed a connection with Greg, but it was kind of Heidi that convinced us that maybe she was kind of crazy. And I thought if these people could live with Heidi, we might fit. And so they invited us to visit New Richmond, which we did shortly after that retreat, within a couple of days. And we met Larry, and things started to unfold there. The elders invited us back to visit and talk and process. And so after talking with the elders for quite some time, we left there, went back to our hotel room, and they said they'd talk to us in a few days. Well, later that evening, Larry and Greg came over and said the elders were excited about partnering with us to plant in New Richmond. And so that was just a real confirmation from God. And when the elders affirmed that calling, I really knew that this was God's green light for us to come. And so we moved to New Richmond in July, 4th of July weekend, 13 years ago, and worked on building the launch team from that point. We intended to have about 40 people on the launch team before we launched publicly. We had about 50, I suppose, by the time we launched. Many of them, those families came from Faith Community in Hudson, and so that provided a nucleus for us to work from that really God has just used that to transform the makeup of this community and the spiritual climate of this community. God has just had His fingerprints all over this church plant from the very beginning. I feel almost guilty sometimes when I talk to other church planters, because things have gone incredibly well here by God's grace. And we've continued to grow. We've had impact on the community. And it's just been an astounding thing to be a part of. And without question, the highlight of my life and my wife's life as well.